Words so sharp, they cut right through. Real talk for the soul's appeal. Prayers rise up the wounds they heal. Lift our voices to the sky. A righteous perspective high. On this path we won't back down. For the Father wears the crown. Each step brings another fight. Breaking chains, we're seeking light. Voice of power won't be tamed. With His love, we're never ashamed. Lift our voices to the sky. A righteous perspective high. On this path we won't back down. For the Father wears the crown. From the ashes we shall rise. Hope is found deep in our eyes. Every word a battle cry. With the Father none deny.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to ARP in the Morning. I am your host, Wise, and I appreciate you guys pulling up this morning. Thank you very much. God bless each and every one of you guys. I hope you all are having a great day or will have a great day. I know there's a lot of folks out on the West Coast that support and watch the channel, and they're getting their day started with me. And I'm so humbled by it, man. I really, really appreciate it, man. Let me show some love to the folks in the chat real fast. We're going to get the show kicked off. Shout out to PK Krillin, Savannah, Tennessee in the building. Appreciate you pulling up early this morning, 7:09. What up, Nisi? How you doing this morning? Thank you for becoming an ARP family member. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you. What up, Scott Young? How you doing this morning, brother? Another Tennessee, one of my other Tennesseans, out here. What up, Big Job Ford? Wisconsin in the house. What up, Shelby Dodd? How you doing this morning? Appreciate you pulling up. What's up, Lori? How you doing this morning? Redefine Queen. What's going on this morning? What's up, Carol Reyes? It's been a minute. I haven't seen you up in here in a minute. What's going on with you? Chi-Town in the house. What up, A person? Appreciate you pulling up. What's up, Vanessa Hall? How you doing this morning? Appreciate you pulling up this morning, as always. What's up, Buddha? How you doing? Upstate New York in the house. Shout out to you. Appreciate you pulling up as well. What's up, Zephyr K9? Shannon Hawkins. What's up, Edmar? Mississippi in the building. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. What's up, Delinda? How you doing this morning? Appreciate you pulling up. Larry Montgomery in the house. Appreciate you pulling up this morning, brother. Thank you very much. Who else we got up in here? Cool Ramon. What's up with you, brother? Appreciate you pulling up. What up, Brian? How you doing this morning? What's up, Mark? We got Nashville in the building. Shout out to you, LJ Taylor. Shout out to you pulling up. Yo from Crawley, Texas. Shout out to you, sister. What up, RJ Hudson? How you doing this morning, brother? South Cac in the building. What up, Joe Skip? How you doing this morning? Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Hope all is well. What's up, Christy? Chi-Town in the house once again. What up, Pam? How you doing this morning? Michigan in the building. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. What's up, William? How you doing this morning? William Walker Grimsworth. How you doing this morning, brother? Appreciate you pulling up. What's up, Pam Westcott? How you doing this morning? What's up, Baby Lungs? How you doing this morning? Burnsville, Minnesota in the building. What's up, Krista Knight? How you doing this morning? Hope all is well. What's up, Billy Dub? How you doing this morning? H-Town in the house. What's happening? What's up, Nelly? How you doing this morning? Appreciate you pulling up as well. What's up, Linda? How you doing this morning? Linda Valentine. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Hope all is well. Distorted Ones. What up, David? David L. Arpin, American Girl. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Thank you. I appreciate the love, man. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right. Who else we got up in here? Josie Cooper. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Carol Reyes says she's been busy. All right. And now, Carol Reyes, are you a part of Chicago Flips Red? Do you have any dealings with them, or have you had any conversations with any of those folks? What's up, Voices for the Voiceless? Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Chi-Town checking in. We got a lot of Chi-Town folks up in here. Shout out to y'all, man. Shout out to y'all. What's up, Rosemary? How you doing this morning? PA in the building. Scott 8T8, Milwaukee in the house. What's going on? Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Streamline Hotel KC. Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Arizona says good morning. Appreciate that. What up, Sharon Pope? How you doing? Virtual Reality. How you doing this morning? What's up, Marie Noose? How you doing this morning? Georgia in the building. What's up, Michael Pacheco? Appreciate you pulling up this morning. Huntington Beach, Cali in the house. What's up, Game Boy Twins? Appreciate you. What up, C. Bergie? How you doing this morning, sister? Hope all is well. Appreciate you pulling up. Who else we got up in here? All right. Oh, Carol, so you said in spirit, but no, you're not really associated with that. That's what's up. That's what's up. We're going to get the show started, man. Please make sure you guys hit that like button. We got 106 people in the building this morning. Make sure you all hit that like button. Hopefully that number will continue to tick up. I'm assuming it will, as we get going. I know a lot of folks are like, man, I can wait until the shout outs are done and I'll jump on, 10 to 15 minutes in because that's right around the time when we start the show. What's up, Allie Summers? How you doing this morning? Appreciate you pulling up. What up, Yuck? How you doing this morning? Appreciate you pulling up. But yeah, make sure y'all hit that like button for me, man. The goal, man, I'd love for us to see 300-400 likes today. My guys in the my blues, please make sure y'all stay on top of that. Let's make sure that we're getting this like button up so we can make sure that this content, man, it gets pushed out, out through the YouTube universe, man. Make sure you can share, if you could share this video for me on X, on Reddit, on Facebook. Share the stream. That would really help the channel out and help the stream out as well. The other thing, man, is, super chats. It will stop the show. Super thanks will stop the show. And we'll acknowledge those immediately. Anybody that joins the ARP family, that will stop the show, and we will acknowledge them as quickly as possible. Anybody that gifts an ARP family membership, that'll stop the show, and we'll acknowledge them as well. Just kicking things off, man. Shout out to Niecy Anderson for kicking things off, man, joining the ARP family this morning. Appreciate you, sister. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. And yeah, we got a great show today. And we're not going to waste a whole lot of time, man. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Hope all is well, man. Happy hump day to you all. Happy hump day to you all. The weeks, I'm telling you, these weeks be flying by. Goodness gracious. Well, let's get the show started.
What the Doge is doing is they're examining the records. They're providing their findings. Congress has to weigh in on those.
They're firing people!
This works. If you're just upset because Donald Trump has Elon Musk doing it, then that doesn't make any sense. We have to make sense. We have to agree on certain things.
All righty. And LJ, I mean, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to watch the video that came out earlier today, but the guy, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, his wife, I mean, if y'all saw her, in the interview or you saw her in the press conference, she didn't look like she wanted to be there. She didn't really look like she wanted to be advocating for that dude. I'm just saying, I just sometimes just point out the obvious. That's what it looked like to me. But today I want to get into, a bit into this town hall that Byron Donalds hosted the other day down in Southwest Florida, because it got really intense. It got really intense, and I just felt like we needed to talk about it. Now, y'all guys know how I feel about Byron Donalds. He's one of my favorite, congressmen. He's one of my favorite representatives out there. We would be so lucky to have somebody like that here in Maryland, but good luck with that. We're stuck with the Jamie Raskins and others, unfortunately right now. But this town hall, man, it got intense, and it really goes to show you, how loud a minority can yell when the facts aren't on their side. Seriously. When the facts aren't on their side, man, I mean, a lot of times, anytime you guys have had conversations, with people from the other side of things, or that just disagree with Trump or the MAGA movement, they get really loud. They don't normally have facts. They don't normally have solid talking points. They just get really loud, really frustrated. And this particular situation is no different. And at the center of everything was Florida Congressman and soon to be gubernatorial candidate. And honestly, we'll say this, I'm gonna go ahead and just throw it out there, soon to be governor of the state of Florida, Byron Donalds, who walked into a hometown Q&A expecting to talk tariffs, inflation, Social Security fraud, but instead he was met, in a room, full of, full of just, I guess, disgruntled people, and it disintegrated into, a free-for-all, that basically yelled at everything. It literally really just yelled at everything, and I'm assuming that this is just the left's election strategy. We're not going to talk about facts. We're just going to pay people to come into these events and just get real reckless. Shout out to Miko Tanaka with the $1.99 super chat. Thank you. Super sticker. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Appreciate you supporting the channel this morning. Thank you very much for kicking things off. But it seems like this is the left strategy. Drown the discussion, in conspiracy slogans, and then clip the video so it looks like, a conservative, never had an answer. That's what it seems like. So, Byron Donalds had come armed with 3 simple data points. First, the U.S. Treasury was hacked several times under Joe Biden, and the story barely made news. Second, the Government Accountability Office has documented tens of billions a year in Social Security theft, money that never reaches the retirees who actually earn the bread or who actually invested into the system. And third, the very same Biden team that now clutches its pearls over Elon Musk's data security contract quietly issued, passes to 53 foreign graduate students so they could rummage around IRS data for research purposes. I'm just saying. He tried to lay those facts on the table, but the moment he mentioned Musk, a clutch of gray-haired hecklers, they shot to their feet and started shrieking. They started acting a fool. They started shrieking that, the world's richest man was personally snooping, on their benefits file. I mean, you guys got to see it for yourself, man, but it's freaking ridiculous. It is freaking ridiculous. And I mean, you're starting to be able to see it. These people are paid operatives. That's what this is, man. They're paid operatives.
Don't move. Are you ready? You ready for the other half of it? The previous president, President Biden. So you do not want to hear the full story. You don't want to hear the full story. Allow me to educate and bring you the full story. And when you're ready, I'm going to tell you, because I don't want you to yell and not hear the full story. Because you're not listening. You're yelling. Here we go. I'm going to tell you the full story. Here's the full story. The previous administration, Joe Biden, he authorized 53 students to have access to the same database during his administration. 53. He authorized 53 students to have access to the Social Security database. And I didn't hear anybody being upset when Joe Biden authorized that. So how can you be upset when it's that versus Elon Musk? That is not true. Again, if you're going to have a conversation about policy, then answer the question. Chanting is not going to let me answer the question. Donald Trump authorized Elon Musk to have access. I agree with that. Do you know who else agrees with it? Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden gave similar access to 53 students during his administration.
They don't want to hear the truth, man. They don't want to hear the truth. A bunch of our friends over on the left, making it hard, making it extremely hard for someone to have a real conversation. Making it extremely difficult for someone to have a real conversation. because that's not what they want. They're not interested in that. They're not interested in that. They're not interested in someone getting the truth out there. But of course, within an hour, every major mainstream news outlet, they had the clips ready, man. Grassroots revolt at GOP town hall. Meanwhile, the camera conveniently zoomed past every, resist sign, every, pride scarf, student loan cancellation banner, anything that might hint that these folks didn't vote red in the midterm anyway. These people are probably not going to, vote for Byron Donalds anyway. But let's be real here, man. The media loves to blow this stuff up, turning a handful of loudmouths into a so-called revolt to make it seem like Byron Donalds is losing his base, when in reality, these hecklers are most likely paid activists planted there to be just disruptors. We're seeing it all across the country. Look at the signs. Look at the coordinated chants. This isn't organic. It's a script. And we've seen this playbook. We've seen this playbook before. We've seen this. We've seen this playbook before, where the left sends, in their professional protesters to derail Republican town halls. Just like, Speaker Mike Johnson warned last month when he told GOP lawmakers to stop hosting these events because of these exact same tactics. The media eats it up. They love it. Plaster it all over the news, and suddenly a few agitators become the face of public outrage. A few paid activists. Donalds represents Southwest Florida, a deep red district where he's been a conservative rock star down there for a minute, fighting for their values in Congress. And these hecklers, honestly, man, I don't think that they are his constituents. I just don't. These are the people that are not going to vote for Byron Donalds anyway. Now, some of them may be, but we can't forget that this has been the Democrat strategy for some time now. Manufacture chaos and clip it for the evening news. Manufacture chaos and clip it for the evening news. And speaking of the bigger picture, Scott Jennings, he had some choice words about this kind of nonsense on CNN the other day. Let's see what he had to say. I want you guys to hear this, because it just shows, how desperate the left is. These tactics, they are a sign of desperation. That's really what it is.
Town halls, do you recommend it?
I mean, I guess it depends on what you want how you want to spend your nights, getting yelled at by unhinged boomer Democrats. I mean, do you see like these people? And Karen said some things that were correct about people having some concern about the economy. Absolutely true. That's usually the top concern for voters. But did you hear the voter that we played? Elon Musk is personally invading my Social Security file. And that's not the mark of someone who's concerned about the economy. That's the mark of someone who's an unhinged boomer Democrat partisan activist who showed up to yell at a Republican. They didn't vote for Donald Trump before. They're not going to vote for him.
We don't know if they're a Democrat, but two, if they are a voter in the district, no matter what you think of their opinion of it,
but that person thinks that Elon Musk is personally invading his Social Security file. I mean, think about the level of conspiracy theory partisanship that you'd have to engage in to believe that the world's richest man is getting into your Social Security file. I can definitely point you to some conspiracy theories that took us down some holes for many. You asked me my opinion on these town halls.
Cycles.
I'm telling you, Democrats love to do nothing more than show up and yell at Republicans. They used to do it mostly online. Byron Donalds goes and takes the punishment in person. Good for him, I guess. But I also think you have to understand these are not representative of overall districts.
That is true. I will say that is true. It is definitely representative of a temperature of what's happening in
Democrats are mad.
Out in the
I
country.
Agree.
Scott's absolutely right. Scott's absolutely right. He's my favorite correspondent on CNN. If it wasn't for him, I don't think I would pay any attention to what's going on over at CNN, just being honest. It's him and like maybe one or two other guys that I like as well, but he's the main one. But Scott Jennings is absolutely right, man. He is. There should be a way to host town halls and have rules of decorum. There should be. There should be a way. But it's becoming harder and harder and harder to do that. And the real issue is this: town halls typically, devolve into partisan shouting matches. When that happens, it's really just a complete waste of time. It's a complete waste of taxpayer resources, and it distracts from actual governance. And honestly, it distracts from the people who are there to actually really learn and to get their questions answered. It distracts from that. It does. It's a waste. It's really and truly, when it turns into that, it's a waste of everybody's time at that point, because no questions will be asked. No answers will be made, and you won't get to hear any of the solutions, that any of these people have. You just won't. And while Scott Jennings highlights the absurdity of, conspiracy theories about Elon Musk, the deeper problem is a system that allows performative outrage to overshadow accountability. That's the real issue right there. The Biden-Harris administration, honestly, it's going to go down as one of the worst administrations in modern U.S. history. They literally set our country back probably about 10 years with their, just terrible policies at the border, the policies of printing money, you name it. They set us back. They probably set us back about 10 years. Seriously. There was a time, 2018, 2019, man, when if you wanted to work, you basically, you throw a resume out there, you fill out an online application, and you pretty much were hired. There were more jobs than people. People actually had money stacked up. So this previous administration, man, they've set us back big time. And the reality of it is that you have these paid ops who are sent out there, to do these things at these town halls, and showcase this performative outrage. And like I said earlier, which ultimately just it's there to overshadow accountability. And this isn't a one-off. This is a calculated Democrat tactic to intimidate and silence conservatives. These people yell, they scream, they disrupt. You can't get a word in edgewise. They don't have any solutions. A bunch of complaints. They don't have any solutions. But they do all those things, and then they clip the chaos to make it look like you're the one who can't handle the heat. I mean, it's straight up intimidation. It's designed to bully Republicans into shutting down or backing off. They don't want to debate. They're not interested in debate. They want a circus. They're not interested in debate. They want a circus. They're not interested in solutions. They just want to talk about and then ultimately exacerbate the problems. And it's not just Byron Donalds dealing with this nonsense. That's not the case. It's not just Byron Donalds dealing with the nonsense. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it, but look at what happened to, Nancy Mace, who's been facing the same kind of coordinated attacks. And this time, not even at a planned event. This wasn't even a planned event. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it, but let me pull it up. I mean, this is crazy. But this is what you have to deal with.
We will bless the Pope now because the Pope has just passed too. We should have brought that up and had a moment of silence because the Pope has just passed. Thank you. Show some respect.
Maybe you could start with respecting young men and women who've been killed in South Carolina by illegal immigrants, like Maddie Hines, who's a 4-year-old girl from the upstate who was killed by an illegal, or the infant in Beaufort County last year who was killed by an illegal immigrant, or Nathaniel Baker, who was killed on campus here just a few short weeks ago in an enormous tragedy for this campus. Why don't we start with respecting the lives lost at the hands of murderous illegal aliens? We can start there, and God bless each and every one of those souls whose lives were stolen. Lives were stolen by an illegal alien, 100%.
Yeah, so this is why this is so, disingenuous. So disingenuous. Oh, you know what? I showed the wrong daggone video.
I do them every year.
Every year.
You want to keep
Are you
going?
gonna do any more this
Do you want
year?
to keep going and
Are you
keep
gonna do it?
harassing me?
I'm asking if
You
you're
could
gonna
have
have any more
gone
town
to a
halls this
dozen
year.
town halls last year.
I asked if you're doing any more this year. It was one simple question.
Yeah.
Are you doing a town
I've
hall
already
this year?
done one. I'll do
Are
plenty
you doing
more.
any more this year? It was a simple question.
You're always invited.
Okay, sweet. We'll look
And
out
by
for
the
an actual
way,
invitation
I
for the
voted
next
for
one.
gay marriage twice.
What does that have to do with
So
me?
I'm just saying, it has to everything to do with you.
Do you think everything about me has to do with gay marriage?
I do,
That's
absolutely.
your first stance when you
Yep.
speak with me?
Absolutely.
There's no other humane
If you want to get in my
conversation you
face
can
about
have
town
me?
halls, you should have shown up
There's
to
no
one
other
last
humane
year.
thing you can talk about me just saying, oh, I support gay marriage.
Yeah,
That's the
because
only
you're
thing
getting
you
in
have
my
to
face
say.
about a town hall. You
All I
could
did
have
was
gone
ask you one
last year.
simple question from right
Would you
over
like
here
me?
is if you have any plans to have more town halls this year.
I have town
That was
halls
one
every year.
question.
I have over a dozen
Okay,
every year.
Great. That was my entire question. You didn't have to go
Yeah.
into the spiel about
You
everything
could
else
have
you
you
wanted
could
to.
have come to any of them last year.
Okay. And I'm
I had
asking you
over a
about this year, not
dozen.
2024. But
Where
we're
were
in
you the year
right?
before that?
Okay.
Or the year before that?
It was a simple
Oh,
question. I
because you
asked
know
if
what?
have
Because you
any more that
people
you're
on the
going to
left
this year
are
or not.
crazy.
So I'm
You're
on the left.
absolutely fucking crazy.
I'm absolutely fucking
You are.
crazy.
And get out of my face.
You're insane.
Goodbye.
You're insane.
Fuck you.
You're gonna fuck me. You're
Yep.
gonna be voted
Bye.
out so fast this year. I
I'm
can't
not.
wait for you to fucking
I'm not.
go into
I
the
won by
dirt.
so much.
You're a disgrace to this state. That's what you are. You're a disgrace. I asked you a simple question, and you just to go on this tirade and tell me "fuck you."
Yeah, fuck you.
Disgusting.
Get out of my face.
Fuck you. How about
Get out of my
that?
face.
You're a nasty
Try it again.
bitch.
What's your
You're a
name?
nasty bitch.
What's your
You're a
name?
nasty bitch. That's
What's
my
your name?
You say "fuck me"?
Yep, I
Just
sure
the
did.
first thing you're gonna say to me is "fuck me" for asking
Absolutely.
you a question.
Get the fuck out of my face.
Fuck you.
Now.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. You couldn't take me on, baby. Stay the fuck away from me.
Oh man, he could have easily just walked away. I mean, seriously, but that energy, yeah, yeah. This guy obviously, who clearly hates this lady. Seriously. Concern? I doubt it. He didn't have any real concerns about a town hall. He really didn't. And my apologies for the language, but I couldn't cut the clip out. I got it off of X. I couldn't cut the clip. My apologies for the language. But Nancy Mace, man, somewhat a firecracker, man. Somewhat a firecracker. And Carol Reyes, I do agree with you. I do think, that's somewhat unbecoming one of a lady just to talk like that. I'm not a big fan of women, speaking like that, dropping F-bombs, things of that nature. I'm personally not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of anybody talking like that out in public. I think I think you could do better, than that. And I would have liked to have seen Nancy Mace, maybe handle herself, in a better way. Honestly, that's just me. I don't think she needed to get down to dropping F-bombs, out there on camera in public, with a guy who obviously doesn't care for her like that. Obviously. Seriously, I'm not big on using profanity. I'm not, especially, when it's around, constituents. There could have been young people, around that could have heard that. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it. But I understand, because these people, they can push you to a place that you normally wouldn't go. They can push you to a place that, and cause you to step out of character. They can do that. But at the same time, very similar to what we saw, with Byron Donalds. With Byron Donalds, the way he handled himself, he didn't get flustered. He didn't, he didn't lose his cool. He handled himself. But some folks, would say, hey, could you blame her, for going there with them? And I mean, some would say no, but I would say, you know what? Yeah, you at some point, we got to be the example, and we need to be the bigger and the better person. And we need to showcase that. We don't need to stoop down to their level. But it is the same method over and over and over again. And then, people wonder, that, when you get annoyed and then you stand up for yourself, they look like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she did like that. I can't believe she talked to me like that. But they'll push you. They'll push you to a place, to have you, completely out of character, we just gotta we gotta do better. We gotta understand that, hey, you can't go there. I've been there. Trust me, I know. I've had conversations with people and they've pushed me to a place where I'm like, man, that's not even me. Why did I go there with them? Why did I do that? And then I kicked myself after the fact because I was like, I should have never allowed, these people to push me to that level. But earlier in the week, Nancy Mace, she did do a town hall. She tried to open, a campus Q&A, by asking for a moment of silence. You guys had a chance to see that. I showed the clip already. And she was talking about, constituents who were, harmed by illegal aliens. And you had hecklers in the crowd. That basically had to be hush. I mean, it's crazy. These people are disrespectful. They really are. There's a lot of really disrespectful people out there that don't know how to handle themselves. And Marini, you're absolutely right. You gotta sometimes you gotta channel the energy. But I also I also don't think that you should stoop to their level. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. But if anybody that's had a chance to see, any of the town halls, you watch any of these town halls, anyone who actually watches them, they watch the feeds. I mean, it's the same exact playbook over and over and over again. A lot of these folks, man, they walk in angry, they derail discussions, they walk out while cameras are rolling, and we got to take some time to zoom in on what's really driving this Democrat strategy, because it's not just about disruption. It's about pushing a narrative that prioritizes optics over the safety of Americans. I mean, look at what happened, in Mace's town hall. She wanted to honor constituents, who were, harmed, who were unalived by illegal aliens, a real issue that hits very close to home. Not only in her district, but districts across the country. And you had hecklers out there shut it down to pivot to something entirely different. This isn't random. Honestly, it's not random. It's a deliberate move by Democrats to downplay the fact that they've let millions of illegal immigrants pour across our southern border. And to protect their image, they want to say, like this is a sign of compassion, even if it means standing up for criminals over the citizens. That young man, and I'll pull it up for you guys real quick one more time, just so you can see it, because we kind of got off kilter a little bit. But I want to pull it up for you guys to see it.
The Pope now, because the Pope has just passed too. We should have brought that up and had a moment of silence, because the Pope has just passed. Thank you. Show some respect.
Maybe you could start with.
Well, and that's the thing. They would rather interrupt. And scream about the Pope. And I mean, honestly, I don't think there is anything wrong with wanting to have a moment of silence, but that is your call. This isn't your show. It's not your skull. I mean, it was an excuse. It was an excuse to be disruptive, to break up the flow. And they would rather scream about Pope Francis than address the fact that a majority of Americans want illegal immigrants deported. And that's according to their own polling. But as we've come to know more or less, the Democrats' playbook, it's about controlling the conversation so they can avoid accountability on issues like immigration. And they're losing that conversation big time. And that's why they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to have any conversations around it. This obsession with shielding illegal immigrants, it doesn't stop at town halls. It's now playing out in courts, where a federal judge just ruled that the Trump administration has to give a 21-day notice before deporting migrants under the Alien Enemies Act. A 21-day notice. And this is from the courts, man. I mean, this is crazy. This is what we're dealing with in 2025, where you have lower level courts basically trying to supersede the executive branch. It's crazy.
2024, you posted on your website the
Wrong site, wrong one. Hold up 1 second here.
that the Trump administration, breaking news, and I want to bring this to you, Lisa, while I have you. A brand new federal judge ruling saying that the Trump administration has to give 21 days notice to Venezuelan migrants in Colorado. Talk about this case and what we know about it.
Well, Chris, based on the Supreme Court's decision on April 7th in the case that had been before Judge Boasberg, you'll recall that plaintiffs who are detainees now have to bring cases all over the country where they are detained and where they fear that they will be deported and then imprisoned. This case is an outgrowth from that. This case is being brought on behalf of those who are detained in Colorado. And one of the arguments that the ACLU has been making before the Supreme Court, but also before district courts, is that reasonable notice means more than 24 hours, which is how the administration has construed it. Here they are finding now a federal judge who agrees with them, who says you need at least 21 days notice so that you have an opportunity to be heard, so that you can exercise your rights in court and challenge the government's asserted deportation of you to another country, and before you go into what is effectively a legal black hole in El Salvador, where you may never come back.
Oh man, this is where we are, man. This is where we are.
Courtney, you helped break this story. Walk us through the sequence of events and what.
This is where we are, 2025. While the travel and protest circuit, basically ate cable time, a federal judge 1,900 miles away quietly rewrote immigration procedure. A district court in Colorado ordered the Trump administration to give every Venezuelan detainee 21 days notice before removal flights can take off under the Alien Enemies Act. I don't know if you guys recall, but that statute, it was reactivated precisely to short circuit cartel hit squads who, basically, who gamed the asylum hearings. And they gamed the asylum hearings for months. A 3-week heads up is the opposite of expedited. A 3-week heads up is the opposite of expedited. It's a schedule for disappearing into the interior, the legal equivalent of tipping off a bank robber that the warrant comes on Thursday. Or, hey, don't go hit that bank because there's going to be guys already sitting outside, posted up, people already inside. They have undercover federal agents already working inside the bank. Don't go do that. Meanwhile, voters across the country overwhelmingly support these deportations, which for some reason Democrats don't seem to understand. Representative Maxwell Frost, who now cares about the rule of law, all of a sudden, Supreme Court judges' rulings, but only when it fits the narrative of protecting illegal immigrants over American citizens. I want you guys to hear what he had to say. These people, they're letting us know exactly who they're loyal to and where their loyalty lies. It's really disgusting, man, to be honest with you. It really is.
following. It's up right now if anyone wants to go to your website. Our country and the world will now recognize this day as the day the Supreme Court of the United States effectively became an illegitimate, politically corrupt arm of the conservative right wing. That's when the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that Donald Trump had immunity from prosecution. And on that day 10 months ago, you called the Supreme Court of the United States illegitimate. Here today, all of a sudden, you seem to be very dedicated, principled, in fact, to the simple rules of law, due process, and legitimacy of the court.
I still hold that the Supreme Court is very much skewed to the right and that there is corruption on the court. I do hold that today. But the fact that the court is so skewed to the right, and even then, they're still saying a complete decision, unanimous decision, that he needs to be brought home, shows that this shouldn't be a partisan issue. It should be a thing that Democrats, Republicans, everybody are coming behind. Bring the guy home so he can go through due process. That is what the Supreme Court, the conservative-leaning Supreme Court, said.
This dude right here is a straight-up clown, man. Maxwell Frost, who is a left-wing, far-left progressive hack, doubled down. He doubled all the way down there. This is hypocrisy at its finest. I mean, he's really out here acting like, you know, the Trump administration is the bad guy for trying to deport dangerous criminals, all while hiding behind rulings to make it sound noble. And let's get one thing straight here, man. The Alien Enemies Act was brought back to deal with dangerous, illegal immigrants, like those tied to the gangs that Frost himself seems to know a little too much about. And I'm talking about, you know, that infamous 2016 tweet of his. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this, but this guy here, man, he is something else. This dude's something else, man. I'm not going to say what he said, but, you know, he basically said, effing with my gang, gonna get you spilled. I don't know. What did he mean by that? Now, Bukele just shrugged, you know, with an emoji, but conservatives are losing it over this, man. Frost, a sitting congressman, tweeting about gang violence like he is some kind of thug himself. And now he's defending a ruling that gives these same kind of criminals a 3-week head start to disappear into our communities. But when you see this, you really start to understand why normal voters feel the party's priorities have slid off the daggone rails. They watch Democratic lawmakers burn frequent flyer miles, rescuing a suspected gang member while angel moms can't get a courtesy call. And they wonder, who exactly is my government fighting for? I mean, that disconnect in itself, it shows up in every national poll. Gallup, Harris, YouGov, all clock Democratic Party's favorability in the mid-30s or lower. Points beneath the GOP and double digits behind none of the above. But you wouldn't know it from the splashy graphics. Nationwide revolt against Trumpists. But the revolt, such as it is, it seems concentrated in newsrooms, not in neighborhoods. It's ridiculous, man. It is ridiculous. And please make sure y'all hit that like button for me. I don't know how many likes we're at right now, but make sure you all hit that like button for me. Oh, we're at 187. Yeah, let's get these likes up to 200, man. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that like button for me. Shout out to Red Buck with the $4.99 super sticker. Thank you so much for supporting the channel this morning. Thank you very much. I want to get into something else here. You know, I want to talk about the newsrooms. Newsrooms are not just misrepresenting the public's frustration. They're actively denying their own role in fueling it. And that's exactly what Rainn Wilson, or Dwight from The Office, for those of you guys that watch The Office is hands down one of my favorite television shows. But he called this out on MSDNC this week when he went head to head with Stephanie Ruhle and shredded the media's excuses for why trust in them has tanked. It's at an all-time low. It's at an all-time low. Let's take a look at how Wilson exposed the legacy media's blind spots on TV.
Percent of Americans don't trust mainstream media. Why is that? How did we get here?
Listen, we are seeing a huge loss in trust of all of our institutions. It's the media, it's medicine, it's banking. It's a huge problem because when you think about democracy and all of these pillars, they need to stand tall, they need to stand strong. And sort of losing that trust is not by accident, it's by design. If you remember when President Trump was running the first time, Steve Bannon once said, the goal is to blow the whole thing up. And so I think that you've got mistakes made or things starting to slip, while at the same time, there's a concerted effort to destroy the media. Because the media, the news media is, in my opinion, the last line of defense of holding power accountable, right? And you had a bit of a perfect storm, right? President Trump won, and tons of people were shocked or angry or frustrated, and they're tuning out. And at the same time, you have the Elon Musk media machine, because they want you to leave traditional media and they want you to go to X, which is a bastion of misinformation where there is no fact checking. So it's a perfect storm of people saying, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm tuning out, I'm disconnecting. And then you have a force pushing it. But even in the last 2 weeks, what we need to do is just cover what's happening in America, right? We have to cover Democrats trying to figure out what their lane is and how they're going to get back on their feet. And we have to simply cover what this White House is doing. And I think if we do that, right, there's that saying, you know, trust is gained in raindrops and it's lost in buckets. And it's not yes, you're not incorrect that the media has lost trust.
This is where I would push back. When I see this kind of insight and passion being directed at the current administration, and the lack of this kind of insight and passion being directed at the previous administration, where, again, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about left-leaning news media organizations were kind of like, la, 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 everything's fine. Look, the environment's, look, the economy's great, la, 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 immigration's not that much of a problem. And really being Cleopatra, queen of denial. Thank you. Boom.
I would push back on immigration.
She could refute what he was saying. And notice how, you know, she just keeps going, keeps trying to bait him. What exactly is there to push back on? What exactly is there to push back on when it comes to immigration? This is their mess. And honestly, you know, I didn't expect her to push back, but, you know, and I didn't expect what I heard from Wayne Wilson, but good for him, man, for dropping truth nukes, you know, right there in the middle of MSDNC. Stephanie Ruhle, she tried to, you know, spin the media's credibility, you know, crisis into some, you know, Trump and Elon conspiracy, but, you know, Wilson wasn't buying it. And neither are the rest of us. I mean, let's get real. The media's trust problem didn't start with Musk or with a Musk retweet. It started with Hunter Biden's laptop, that blackout. The lab leak is a conspiracy summer. The lie that, you know, inflation was transitory. I don't think I need to go on. Wilson, who isn't even, you know, some, you know, MAGA guy, tried to gently toss her a lifeline. He said, maybe, just maybe, people don't trust any institutions anymore, hospitals, universities, banks, not just the media. Try to be fair, but no, she doubled down. She doubled down, you know, with the same tired playlist of scapegoats, Steve Bannon and Trump and Elon Musk. Apparently, all roads lead back to X now, where memes and are more dangerous than the media malpractice that we witnessed over the previous 4 years. And that's the heart of the issue. These outlets have become echo chambers for the ruling class. They push narratives, ignore reality, and then gasp when the people stop listening. They pretended that Biden's immigration disaster and economic mess, they pretended and acted like it didn't exist. They acted like, you know, school lockdowns and border chaos were just temporary bumps in the road. And now they wonder why the public's fed up with them. They wonder why the public has basically just said, I'm good. And the truth, the explosions came from inside the building. The media burned its own credibility to the ground. And now they're crying foul when someone like Rainn Wilson calls it out. This isn't just about MS-DNC. It's about, a media establishment that's been gaslighting America for years and still refuses to own up to it. They don't fact check themselves. So the people are doing it for them in real time. And Wilson, again, a Hollywood liberal, just did it on national TV. When even your own side is calling BS, maybe it's time to stop pointing fingers and look in the mirror. But like I know, they won't. Rule, MS-DNC, and so many others, they would rather keep playing victim while shilling for the regime. And meanwhile, people are logging off mainstream media and logging into X, logging into Rumble, logging into YouTube and other podcasts for the truth. Because a large majority of us are done with the propaganda machine known as legacy media. I'd like to say wake up legacy media, but to be frank with you, man, I really don't care. Because we know what time it is with them. But they probably should wake up before the only audience that they have left is each other. We got a couple super chats here. Freedman's Network. Peace-wise, I absolutely hate the Democrats as a black man. However, the Republicans ain't from doo-doo either. I don't necessarily know. However, the Republicans ain't from doo-doo either. Okay. Shout out to Billy W for the $5 super chat for the advancement of truth in our society. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate you guys. Now I understand that. I don't think, and I've said this on this channel, a multitude of times. I'm not one big into advocating to push people from one party to the other. I'm really an advocate for people to do their own due diligence and their own research. You got one side that will say, you got people that are, diehard, Democrats, or kind of like, this brother here, Freedman's Network, who says, the Democrats, he absolutely hates the Democrats. But, the Republicans, aren't a whole lot either. And to an extent, I could agree with that. I think the MAGA movement is a little different than the actual Republican Party, especially those rhinos, or especially, the quote unquote establishment Republicans out there. But I do think there is some change happening within the party, but we're probably past due for a third, maybe a fourth party, to be honest with you. When you look at the way things are, starting to shake out. But when I look at the two parties as they stand today, and I look at one side that's, been a party that's, man, they've done more harm. We'll just talk about the black community for a second. They've done more harm than help. You look at the Republican Party and say, okay, well, Republican Party hadn't necessarily done anything for black folks, but I wouldn't necessarily say they've done anything to hurt, other than maybe those people on that establishment side that signed off on those NAFTA deals, that signed off on those deals that caused a lot of those, warehouse and factory jobs to be pushed outside of the country. And that's not a Democrat or Republican thing. I think that was a bipartisan thing, just based off of the research that I've been able to do and what I've learned. But I'm more in line, with the MAGA movement, because I think it's a little different than your standard Republican Party. And when you look at what's going on the left, I don't see how anybody, like an actual American citizen who cares about their country, who cares about their neighborhoods, I don't know how you can continue to support these people. They're showing you day to day that they're willing to sell out Americans. They're willing to sell out their country, their countrymen, their citizens, their constituents. They're showing us, every day. We'll put it up there. Freeman Network says white society has zero anything for black folks. The sooner we accept the fact that, hold up. Guys, when y'all gotta send these things, man, the punctuality, man, it's gotta be right. I know it's quick. I know everybody be quick typing, but the fact that, is it coining and buck dancing? Okay. Well, I mean, my thing is that there's a book that I'm reading right now, and it's actually written by Batya and Batya Ungar, Sargon Ungar. And I think my issue, with that is that the one is that you're looking for somebody to do something for you. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with that that concept. And in this book, the name of the book is called Second Class Citizen. And there's a lot of people that is interviewed in this book from coast to coast, East Coast, West Coast, different demographics of people, black people, white people, Hispanics, and things of that nature. And I think a lot of us are looking at this, and we're still looking at this from a race standpoint. I think we're not necessarily looking at it from a class standpoint. And as we continue to progress in this country, where we are right now, poor people are poor people. It don't matter, how much melanin you have. There are poor people out there. There's probably, poor. Honestly, there's probably more poor people of other demographics than there are, considered, poor black folks. But the one thing that I have learned, in reading this book, and just in people that I know, life is about choices. And I get it. Everybody doesn't come from the same environments. If you come from, what people would call the hood, or if you come from the trailer park or something along those lines. And LJ Taylor, I agree with you there. It does sound a whole lot victim talk, but you get a lot of people that's on that side of things. It is a lot of victim talk, over there. That you get a lot of that. You get a lot of victim talk and a lot of, somebody's got to do something for me. But life is about choices. It really is. Life is about choices. And you have people that come from poor neighborhoods, and some people can get out and some people can't. And more of it is really about the choices. Now, sometimes, we don't get to choose who our parents are. We don't get to choose who our parents are. We don't get to choose who our family is. We don't get to choose that. We don't get to choose, grandparents or any of that. And so some of it, there's a lot of generational things that happen. And it's not in a situation where you couldn't do something, but some of it is you didn't have anybody to show you the game. But I say today, and I challenge that in 2025, when everybody's walking around, with one of these things, I would say that information is as accessible as it has ever been in the history of mankind. So even if you do come from one of these environments, now I do understand that the greatest teachers that you are going to have, it's going to be your parents. It's going to be the people that you're around. So if you're in a situation where either you got bad parents or you don't have any parents at all for one reason or another, because, they got, hooked on drugs, or, unfortunately, they passed away early, or something along those lines. But in reading this book, and I say this to say this, because I'm reading this book by Batya Ungar Sargon, and it's called Second Class, and it's called Second Class: How the Elites Betrayed America's Working Class. And in those interviews that she was interviewing, that she had with these people, within this book, and I'm about halfway through. I'm not all the way completed yet, but I'm about halfway through. I'm one of those dudes. I'm reading right now like 4 books at the same time. It's ridiculous. I'm terrible, because people always, give me something to say, hey man, you got to check this out. And then, I start getting into it, and I might read, a chapter or 2 of this one. And then I get to the next one, a chapter or 2 of that one, so forth and so on. But the one thing that I did here, and I'm not negating the fact that there aren't some issues, in the working class, that I'm not negating the fact that there's been some challenges when it comes to the political elites, and we're seeing that fracture. And we're seeing that fracture of the have and have nots. We're starting to see that more. And honestly, the previous 4 years, I think it actually sped up it sped up that fracture even more. But in reading the book, and I suggest that you guys go and check it out. You can read it or listen to it, either one. But the thing that I heard, there was like a running theme of people who made just some real poor choices in their life. And it's a running theme. You know, you have kids early, out of wedlock. That's going to set you back. That's a recipe for financial strife. If you have kids early, out of wedlock. If you choose the wrong mate, whether if you're a woman and you choose the wrong man, or if you are a man and you choose the wrong woman, or whatever the case may be, you choose the wrong mate, you choose the wrong spouse. Excuse me. That could be a recipe for strife. Not graduating high school because maybe you didn't have parents to tell you, to teach you that, hey, at least at minimum, obtaining a high school education is important. There was a running thing. And then it goes back. The other flip side of that too is that we have a lot of people in this country that don't really understand finance. They don't understand how to create a budget. They don't understand how to, how to save money. They don't understand those things. And this isn't a black thing. This isn't a white thing. This is an American thing. We have a lot of fiscal irresponsible people in this country. We have a lot of fiscally irresponsible people in this country who don't really understand what to do with their money. And the reality of it is this: if you mess around and you have 2, 3, 4 children out of wedlock, if you are a man, and you're paying child support to 4 separate households, it's very difficult for you to get ahead in this nation. It's not to say it can't be done, but it's very difficult for you to get ahead in this nation. On the flip side of that, if you're a woman and you choose the wrong mate multiple times, you have children by those dudes, and all of a sudden now you're a single parent and you have, 3 kids out of wedlock, single parent, and you're having to do this, the likelihood of you being in poverty is going to be pretty high. On the flip side, you'd hear the people, they would talk about how much credit card debt and things of that nature that they were in. So I hear a lot of fiscal irresponsibility there, a lot of fiscal irresponsibility. And you have a lot of people out there that they do have a victim mindset, and even reading a book and reading a book and, hearing the stories of these people and some of their poor choices. Some of it is, I chose a skill set that I didn't realize was going to be obsolete in 2 to 3 years. I didn't realize it. And by the time I finished my training, there were no jobs out there. I ran my credit up. I got with this guy and we had a kid, but I wasn't married, and then he left. And then I did it again. So some of it, like, I don't know if we can save everybody, because I don't think you can save everybody from their own poor choices and decisions. And you get a lot of people that are looking to these parties to save you. And I'm not one of those people to tell you that a party is going to save you, because I don't agree and I don't believe that a party will save you. I don't believe in telling anyone to put their faith in man, regardless, if they're, an elephant or a donkey, blue or red, right or left, conservative or liberal. Now, what I will say is that as someone who is a follower of Christ, and I'm looking at the parties, because we do have to live in this country, we got to send our kids, to these schools. We don't necessarily have to, but most of us do. We send our children to these public schools. If you are someone that is a follower of Christ and you're looking at the Progressive Party or the Liberal Party or the Democrat Party, and you're looking at the things that they want to implement, those things aren't going to help you. They're if anything, what they're doing is they're part of the what's the word I'm looking for? What is the word I'm looking for? They are basically running our country into the ground, and stripping the moral fiber out of our nation. And again, when I look at this, and this was just a small sample size, in her book of the people that she interviewed, it was a small sample size. But I kept hearing, there was a running theme. I kept hearing, choices, people who made poor choices. And I'm not talking about the folks that, they got married and the husband or the wife passed away and they found themselves, with the kids by themselves. That's an unfortunate situation. But I'm talking about the people who, I don't want to necessarily say on purpose, but to an extent on purpose, you had 3 or 4 kids out of wedlock. You're paying a bunch of child support all over the place. Life is about choices. And even if they bring all the factory jobs back, they bring all the warehouse jobs back, you still got to get up to go to work on time. And then whatever money you do make, you still got to know what to do with that money. You can't be, buying DoorDash and using Klarna, to finance your DoorDash meal for 4 months. So I got a question for people in the chat, and I'll open it up. I don't know if the brother Freedman's Network is still in the chat or whatever, but I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to open it up, and I'd love to have you come on. I'd love to hear, what you have to say about this. But I want to know from you guys in the chat, man. I do want to see the economy get better. I want to see better decisions made, on the political side of things. But how much of one's life do we have? Should we, place in one's hands? Because ultimately, we could help you get some money, but I don't get to choose how you spend it, right? I'm gonna pin this up here just for you guys, for anybody that would like to pull up. Yeah, actually, you know what, Kenneth? That's a great call right there. We're gonna do a panel on Friday, so if anybody, you want to pull up, Kenneth, you got to send me your email address, man, or put your email address in the chat, and then that way I'll have it. And well, you may not want to do that, but shoot me an email. You know what? I'm gonna put it in here for you. All right, Kenneth, that's my email address right there, man. So shoot me a message today. I want to make sure I have you on my list, when we do the panel. We're going to do a panel show on Friday. And yeah, but what do you guys think, man? How much, I know this previous administration, interest rates did get really expensive, but how much of one's life would you say they are responsible for? Because the word says the poor will always be among us, right? There's always going to be poor. Now, in this country, which is considered the hey, Freeman's Network, man, I would love for you to pull up, man. I put the link in there if you got time. I don't know if you're at work or whatever the case may be. Shout out to Texas Mouse for joining the ARP family, and Freeman's Network for the $4.99 super chat. He said, y'all funny. I understand there's a huge market for talking down to Black society. I would love to get your opinion, on this. Pull up, the link's in there. But I appreciate the super chats. I do appreciate the super chats. But I don't think it's a situation where it's really about talking down to Black people. I mean, I think it's I think we're living in a country that has a plethora of opportunities for everybody. But again, like I said, you don't get to choose who your parents are. You don't get to choose your family. So people will say, well, I didn't have anybody that would give me the game, or I didn't have anybody that would hold me accountable. There was a video I was watching today, and he was saying that in my family, no, that wasn't it. That wasn't the video. It was another interview that Batya had in the book, and this man was saying he's a business owner, Black man out of California, but he was saying I was the only family. I was the only person, in my friend group or in my neighborhood that had that had their mother and father in the household. And the reality of it, is this. I mean, when you look at the socioeconomic totem pole, and we're definitely going to have this conversation on Friday, but when you look at the socioeconomic totem pole and you see the Black community, at the bottom of that socioeconomic totem pole, but on the flip side of that, you also look at, the people who are married, in this country. There is a direct correlation. You look at, the Black community, the least married, and the lowest demographic on the socioeconomic totem pole when it comes to finances. Now, when you look at it, and that's just overall, but when you look at married couples in America are really the wealthiest group of people in mass. They're the wealthiest group of people in mass. They are. And when you look at it from a race thing, or you look at it from a demographic perspective, you look at that, Black couples, Hispanic couples, Asian couples, white couples that are married, there is a very, very, very small disparity between the two. Very small disparity between the couples when you start talking about finances, because typically it takes two people to work and make it in America right now. Unfortunately, that's just what it is. It takes two incomes more times than not to make it. So even if you're only making the average, and right now the average Black man in America makes, I think the average median income, the last time I looked up, believe it was like $58,000. The average Black woman in America, the median income was just under $50,000. I think it was $40,000. But when you look at that, and if you could combine those two incomes together, you're looking at almost $100,000 a year household income. You're right there, like I said, within a couple thousand of everybody else. When you look at it, the problem is that we don't have enough married people. We just don't. Black men are 34%. 34% of Black men are married. 26% of Black women are married. Black men, 54% of Black men are actually in the middle class. So, if we started to tighten those numbers up, and we start, creating families, you also look at the fact that majority, 77% of Black children are born, out of wedlock. When you look at that, we got some challenges. There are some challenges in our country. We're going to pull up Steven. I'm not sure if this is, my guy Freedman Network, but, if it is, it's great. What's going on, Steven? How you doing today, brother?
Hey,
Let me know
man,
where you're tuning in from.
How you doing, man? I'm in Atlanta.
Oh, you in Atlanta? All right, that's what's up,
Yeah.
man. Where at? Are you in the city, or are you somewhere
No,
around
I'm in-
285?
No, I'm in. Oh no, I got away from there. I mean, kind of. I'm in Alpharetta. No, I got away
Oh, you're in
from me and my
Alpharetta.
wife.
Okay.
Yeah, me and my wife, we used to live in Lawrenceville. 85 is an absolute disaster, man. I had to get away from it.
Oh, it
I had to
is.
get away
It
from it.
is. It definitely is.
Mhm.
I actually grew up out there. I grew up in Stone Mountain. I
Okay.
went to high school out there in Stone Mountain. I went to Redan. And, all my people, I'm the only one that lives up here in Baltimore, but all of my family lives in Georgia still. All my
It's crazy.
intermediate family anyway.
It's crazy. We got some parallels because my mom, when she was married, she was living in Maryland. I've been a big Baltimore fan from since I don't know, since I was like in middle school, man. So I'm a huge Baltimore fan. And then I was up in Bell Camp for a while. We was in Towson and Bell Camp. So yeah, man.
Okay.
So we got
Yeah,
some
you ain't too far away
parallels,
from
man.
me. Yeah, that's not too far away from where I'm at right now. Yeah, but what do you have for us?
Yeah, man. So I want to kind of address this because this conversation has absolutely evolved over the years, because with Black people, as far as the victim mentality, as far as where racism plays a part in our community nowadays and what's going on and things like that. So to a large extent, and I'm not the guy that you were talking about, whoever, he kind of said some flagrant stuff, some of the things that we hear a lot of times in the hood and everything like that. But when you elevate a little bit and you get to a certain position in life and you get out of that aspect, out of those peripherals that are taught to us in our communities, you start to see, obviously you've pointed this out, is that it is now currently the biggest battle is the have and the have nots. I mean, there's no getting around that. the thing that I want, the reason why I want to get on here, I want to point this out for black people, for white people, for everybody watching in between. The thing is that there's no erasing the history, right? There's no erasing the history in which this country was set up, the foundation in which it was set up on. Now, do we still have the same racial issues largely in mass in this country? No, I don't believe so. I don't know. I no longer believe we are in that space. People are still fighting the fight like as if we're in the 60s or something. That's just not true. And I had to, every time I have this conversation with like my mom or like friends or people who are still pushing this, I'm like, when is the last time somebody in a clan, hoodie has rolled up on you? When's the last time you've had a flagrant outburst of racism in your life, in your day-to-day life? When's the last time you know somebody that has just had a flagrant day-to-day racism? I mean, obviously, is it in our institutions? Yes, it's cooked in there for sure. Is it in our workplaces? Yes, it's cooked in there for sure. But outright, outlandish, hold you back racism, it's not prevalent anymore. It's just not the way it used to be, right? There's ways around it. You can educate yourself. You can get your money. Nobody's stopping you from getting your money. And, that's the crazy thing with like politics nowadays, with all the flagrant things that they say about how we're losing rights and stuff like that. And that was ultimately one of the things that made me start paying attention to Trump was, like a lot of the lies that was being said about that stuff. But let me not get too far off topic. There's nothing drastically holding anybody back outside. Now we're talking about the hood. That's a completely different story though, because the hoods were set up and in a particular way where when you have trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma, generation after generation after generation after generation, that does something to you mentally to the point where you start to lose sight of anything outside of what's going on in your hood. And then you can point the finger at the system, at the white people, because that's the easy way to go about it, right? But the overall, like the overall thing of it is the have and the have-nots. And unfortunately, black people have just always been the butt of that joke. We've always been the have-nots in this country as far as how it was set up. But that doesn't mean that, because the biggest difference between me and the people who I grew up with, they never left. They never got out. They never saw life outside of that situation. But you can't make a choice that you don't know that you have. You understand? Like when
before you keep going, I will say this. There's when you look at the number, there's more poor white people than there are poor black people. The problem is that poor white people and poor black people don't live around each other. So we don't really understand that we're actually dealing with some of the same things because we don't live around each other. Right.
Right. But those
on
environments
the flip side of that, though, but the environments are slightly different, but they're similar. Hear me out. Give me a second.
No, I got you.
These are socialist environments, because typically when you look at poor black neighborhoods, it was really the poor black neighborhood is a socialist experiment. Right? You got the projects, you got people living on government assistance. They give you just enough to survive, never enough to thrive. And then you get one or two generations. And then what happened in the 70s when they said, okay, well, no men can be a part of this. You know what I'm saying? No men can be a part of this. And they stripped men out of it. And now you got a socialist environment that has never worked anywhere in the world. You can't name a place where this type of environment has seen success. There's been no success when you have this environment. So we are the experiment. Now, I'm not one out here to say that racism doesn't exist, that there aren't some people that don't like black folks or black folks that don't like white folks or Hispanics or Asians, whatever. I'm not one out here advocating that. I'm not saying that. What I am advocating is life is about choices. You in the Atlanta area right now. I grew up down there. The city itself and the surrounding areas is probably about 70% black folks. What I got a chance to see there is, and I think it's one of the most beautiful things, and I think it's probably similar up here as well, being in Maryland, another place where you got a high concentration of Black people, is that you actually have a choice. If you want to thug and bug, that life is out there for you if you want to do it. But we also got a chance to see you don't necessarily have to do that if you don't want to. But again, I say we don't get to choose, our parents, and we don't get to choose those types of things, because I know people that grew up in fairly decent neighborhoods, but they chose a thug and bug and they locked up right now, or they did. And I know some people that grew up in the hood, that they didn't have their parents and so forth and so on, and they may seem like they are stuck. Or I know a couple people that grew up in the hood that joined the military and they got the heck out of there and they just never went back. So at some point, what I'm really advocating is, at how much do we have to put on us and our choices, as people and as Americans in general? Yes, we know there were some atrocities that happened back in the day. I understand it. And I come from the hood. I'm not originally from Atlanta. I grew up, the first 10 or 11 years of my life, I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, a small town in Tennessee. And I grew up on the east side in the hood. And I watched my parents, we start from the bottom, and I watched them make some choices to pull us up out of there. So I'm looking at that and saying, okay, there are some things that is going on in our community. When you look at the fact that we're not getting married at the same clip as everybody else, we're having more kids out of wedlock than everybody else. And what we do know is that if you don't graduate high school and you have kids out of wedlock, it is a recipe for poverty. Those are facts. And even if you do put yourself in a position where you start making money and you have 3 or 4 people, you have 3 or 4, baby mamas, and you're paying child support, you can't get ahead because your money is gone before you get a chance to touch it. I'm just saying how much. I'm not saying that there isn't any racism. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying that, folks haven't gone through things, but I look at where we are today in 2025 and I say, man, life is about choices. And I put more onus on us making proper choices and decisions. And then even if you're doing those things, and then you can say, well, I didn't get a job, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, then we could probably start to lean more on, it's racism and they're keeping me down. But I'm like, how about we really put some real focus on cleaning up the things that need to be cleaned up, amongst our own community?
So I 1,000% agree with you. And I'm not speaking about this from the perspective of trying to say that you're not addressing this. You did bring up a point though, and from a Black perspective, people who can't see outside of that narrative, when you start to talk about the breaking up of the Black family nucleus, which has been absolutely destroyed at this point, and what that does to our community, what that does to our kids, where we're the ones with the moms that are the most single moms raising children. And now it's my generation that's up there. I'm ashamed of millennials, man. We've been contributing to this BS. And I thought that we were all on a particular path to kind of move away from that stuff. And now we're the ones raising these little YNs now. So it's just like, yes, the accountability needs to be there because we absolutely know better. We absolutely know better. And it's just like, but when you take into perspective what actually happened when they did start to break up the Black family nucleus, when it comes to, and this is the part that I say is kind of set up, and then this leads to a mindset where you don't know you have a choice. If you don't know what choice to make, you can't make the proper choice when you don't even know you have a choice. And that's when you have perpetuated these neighborhoods to be in the positions that they're in by taking the man out of the home on both ends, right? Because what do Black women always like to say? They always like to say they're the most educated and everything like that, right? So on that end, we got Black women with.
The crazy thing is that's not even true. But we're not going. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole right now. But
the thing is, Black women have been, moving forward with degrees and businesses. They've been growing. They've been a fast demographic of growing since like the 80s or something like that, right? So I agree with that. And then on the other end, you got welfare and stuff taking care of the ones who don't want to push themselves. And the more babies they have, the more, things that they get. And so what you get is the boss bee mentality on one side, and then the welfare mentality on the other side. And both sides take the man out of it, which takes the family equation out of it, which leads to our failed success rates with kids not graduating school, kids ending up in jail, things like that. What I'm saying is that those things were specifically set up for us to fail. And I don't think that we should ignore that. But at the same time, at this particular point, like I said, the conversation has absolutely evolved. I 1,000% agree with you. We got to take responsibility, man. We got to bring honor back. We got to bring morals back. We got to bring shame back. We have to bring family back. We have to start honoring what it is that God set forth for us, to bring the family back to the forefront and make that a priority, because that the backbone to any strong community is family. And if you don't fix that, it's a wrap. And so right now for us, it's a real tough call, because I come from that, so I sympathize with it. But at this point, I'm just like, man, we're cooked. We're cooked. If we don't start to go ahead.
I understand, and I want to get Aaron up here, in a second, man. So, Stephen, I appreciate you pulling up this morning, man. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate you and everything that you said. I don't disagree with you wholeheartedly. I don't. And when you start talking about the family, and I've said this a lot, you can't have a strong community without strong families. That is important. There is no real community without strong families. So you hit the nail on the head there, but I appreciate you pulling up, man. Let me get Aaron Von Black up here.
Man. You have a great day, brother.
All right, man. Take care, man. God bless.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Stephen, man. Let me get Aaron up. What's up, Aaron? How you doing, man? Were you watching the broadcast or tuning in from?
Peace, Wise. Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, New York in the house. What's going on, brother? What you got for us? I seen you down there shaking your head. You agreed with some things. You didn't agree with some other things. But go for it.
Here's the thing, Wise. Here's the thing. I'm the Freedmen's Network that sends the comments in. I run the Freedmen's Network.
I appreciate you pulling up this morning, man. Thank you.
Here's the thing, right? A lot of what is being said is true. Family is number one. And I advocate that. And our families have been attacked and targeted, starting because I'm older than you guys. Starting in the late 60s, early 70s, they came with the programs, pushed the man out of the house. Right on the heels of that, they came with the Rockefeller laws. I've seen it right here in New York City, and that locked up thousands of brothers across the cities. You understand what I'm saying? To the fact, some of them are getting out now because of Trump's First Step Act. Some of them are coming home. A lot of them are coming home now.
One of my cousins got out behind that. He got 30 years. You know what I'm saying? On a he got 30 years, and he home now.
Right. They're coming home now. As just opposed to the 1994 crime bill. This is why I hate the Democrats, and I think black people largely should get away from them. Really, now, what I will say this, the traditional legacy Republican Party, they don't like Trump. Let's not get it twisted.
No, they don't.
They really hate him.
We're in agreement there.
You understand what I'm saying? Now, I didn't vote for Trump, but I like some of his stuff. I didn't vote for him because there was nothing on the table specifically for my folks, for my people. That's why I didn't vote for him. I definitely wasn't voting for Kamala. I hated her from the door. I hated her. You understand? But I will say this now. I want people to stop saying that we're playing victim. We know that there is race hustlers that play the victim card because there's money in that. They get money, they get likes, they get clicks, they get views, they get PayPal, Cash Apps off of playing that role, because that's what a lot of people want to hear, because like the brother said, it's the easy way out. However, on the flip side of that, there's a market for people that say, oh, no, it ain't white people, it's black people. There's this, there's that. You're playing victim. There's a market for that. And that's for white society to hide behind those kind of black folks. So it works on both sides.
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
So, and I understand your premise, because I grew up in the Atlanta area. I grew up around majority black folks. Okay. Actually, my high school was 98, 99% black, actually high school and middle school.
Mm-hmm.
how much, because we look at, I know you didn't vote for Trump because, of the policies, but when you look at, I got a couple things to say, and then I got a question for you. When you look at the policies of what you just mentioned from the 60s, 70s, and, doing some additional research on the actual civil rights movement and how it was, basically overtaken by the CPUSA. And we look at, some of the quote unquote Black leaders who was actually not necessarily advocating for Black people. They were more or less advocating for themselves or, for the CPUSA. And then we look at the policies that were pushed via Lyndon B. Johnson and a lot of these quote unquote Democrats out there dating back to 60s and 70s. Although when you look at the civil rights movement in itself, more Republicans, in the House and Senate actually voted for those rights over the Democrat Party. But I don't want to go down that. I don't want to go down that rabbit. When you look at the report, the Moynihan report that came out, in the 60s, it was put out there to say, you know what, we need to really help elevate the Black man in this country so they can be the leaders of their households. Because we know that this is what's going to work and this is what's going to build a community. And you had people like Ralph Abernathy, Martin Luther King, and others that was, part of that Democrat Party that said, nah, we don't want to do this. We want this initiative where we give the welfare and we're going to basically break up these families. And here we are today in 2025, the least married, the most children out of wedlock. But yet we continue to support the party that actually exacerbated the problem, because people got on Byron Donalds when he said that, hey, the Black family was more intact during Jim Crow, but he wasn't wrong. He was actually right. And we didn't have the shooting and killing and robbing and stabbing going on in our neighborhoods. We didn't have those types of things. Now, there were some other issues. There were oppression going on, but our neighborhoods, for the most part, they were safe places for us. And nowadays, that's not necessarily the case. So my question to you is, when you look at Black people in America, the wealthiest group of Black people in the world, 16 trillion. I think they said the number now is upwards of, we got $27 trillion worth of spending power. We would be considered, number 16 or 17 when you look at if we were our own nation GDP wise. Right. It's not really a situation where Black people don't have money. And I'll say this, in general, when I start looking at Americans, it's not a situation where Americans don't have money. We have spending problems. We're not fiscally responsible. You'll see people in the hood, they won't have a car, but they'll have a $1,500 iPhone and they'll be louied out head to toe. So even if you gave them the money without financial literacy and some self-control and fiscal responsibility, can the problem actually be solved? And how much of it do we need to put on ourselves and say, you know what, we got some things that we need to fix. I'm not saying that, some of this other stuff isn't out there, but we got some things that need to be fixed. How much of that do we have to say, you know what, we got to look at us, and there are some things that we could solve ourselves.
Okay, great. And that's a multi-layered question, and I'm gonna try to do my best to stay with you. Appreciate the question. Okay. Here it is. You're right. Now, to correct you on one thing, I didn't vote for Trump because I didn't like his policies. I like some of his policies, and I think they are working in some direction, whether we want to digest them or not. They're working. Go at it. Go at the institutions that we say that have been suppressing us. Go at it, baby. Tear it up. Get rid of Department of Education, the tariffs, all that. Because now, like you said, people can't afford to pay their rent, but they got on a $3,000 outfit. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, now with all of this stuff being exposed, it's gonna leave you a choice, no other choice but to face reality. You can't do that. You got to get out of that mindset. Now, with that said, we do have to take responsibility and I advocate for that the most. Let me tell you something, man. That's why I don't like when people say we're playing victim, because I'm one of the first ones that will get on my platform and call out the monkey-ish. I don't want to curse on your show because I know you're a religious guy, but I call out the monkey. When we doing the monkey stuff, I call it out. You want to keep acting up when they send the National Guard in to put down martial law? Don't complain. If you want to keep shooting each other up and doing all this craziness and foolishness over dumbness, keep doing what you're doing, and you're gonna get what you understand. Stupid decisions, you get stupid prizes. You play stupid games, you're gonna get stupid prizes. So I'm one of the ones that advocate for that. However, I know, and I've seen it so much in my life. Now I come from a 2-parent family home, right? My mother and father worked. At the early part, my mother was a stay-at-home mom, but then she, my father started making enough money, so she wanted to go to work, and she had made a great living. We lived in the house. We didn't live in the project. We moved from the projects to a house. But the thing is, I decided to run the streets. I was out here robbing, sticking up, doing whatever. Went through the penitentiary and all that. That wasn't because of my upbringing. You understand? That was because, like you said, the choices that I made. However, because of the background that I come from, I was able to turn that around because I had the basis to do that.
You had a foundation. You had a solid foundation. Even though you didn't live it, and I'm sure they were like, man, we know we raised him better, and you knew that too.
Yeah.
But you had the foundation was there for you to make a change.
Right. And I made that change. Now, reason why I'm saying that now I advocate for reparations. I know a lot of people on the right don't like that because they say, oh, we beg and you can't beg for what's owed to you. You can't beg for what if you give me $1,000, Wise, you let me borrow $1,000, and some months go by, I ain't paid your money, and you saying, yo, Aaron, what's up with my money, man? You're not begging, you asking for what's yours. There was agreements that were made for that situation that were broken. Other people got theirs, we never got ours. So I advocate for that. However, at the same time, I'm from the school and the teachers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, where I believe that the Black community has to do for self. I believe in that wholeheartedly. So we don't stop looking for a handout. And to correct the previous brother to me, it's not Black people that's the biggest demographic for public assistance. It's actually white Caucasian people. You understand? So that's another myth that we all Section 8 and welfare people. No, it's not. In this United States, the data shows it. It's white,
of course.
It's Caucasians. Yeah. I know rich Jews that are getting public assistance right here in this city. They have their own centers that they go to. This is what I'm telling you, man. I see that over the years, I've seen what's happening. I've seen what's happening. I'm living it right now. We're trying to get some things started here in New York City for the Blacks that's here, for the foundational people that's here, and it's like, yo, everybody. By the time we get to it, they say, oh, we ran out of funds, we don't have this, that, because they don't give it to every other group. So I see the system in play. I get up, I work, I got a career, and I do podcasts and I do different things. I'm busy. It ain't never a day that I'm not doing something. You understand what I'm saying? However, I see what's happening. I see what's happening. And then can nobody tell me that there's not a system in play to suppress. Now, like I said, there's a market for all you got to do is talk crap about Black folks. And you're gonna make some money. And there's a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people out here on these YouTube streets. They got platforms. That's all they do. Jason Whitlock, all these guys. These old bootlicking folks.
But I think a lot of people are looking at the culture. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at the culture and what folks are grasping a hold of, when you look at the music, you look at some of the choices, you look at the people that get uplifted. I mean, it's really unfortunate because it wasn't always the case.
Right.
The other thing too is that we've allowed people to be leaders. Malcolm X talked about this. You know what I'm saying about the people that you allow to be leaders. We're looking at rappers and entertainers and athletes to be leaders when those aren't the people that should be the leaders or the advocates. The other flip side of that too is when you look at other demographics out there, they're piecing money together to make things happen. And they're also piecing money together, kind of like what Dr. Claude Anderson was talking about. Like, hey, man, you need to put money behind your own political candidates. Here you are, think about this. You got one party that people will say aren't willing to even listen to black people, and you got another party that they won't do anything for you. Because you got one side that they know you're going to vote for them no matter what, and you're not even going to ask for anything. And you got the other side that says, we know y'all not going to vote for us no matter what. So what's the point of even having a conversation with you? That's why for me on this channel, I don't advocate for a party. I advocate for people to do research. I advocate for people to do their own due diligence, and based off of your belief system and what you believe, make a honest decision based off of that. I don't think that, Trump, me being a follower of Christ, I don't think that any politician is somebody that we should look to as a deity that's going to save us. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in man saving us. But I'm also I'm a true believer in there are some things that we have to do for ourselves, because you can't expect for somebody to respect you more than you respect yourself. And when you look at us as a community, overall, en masse, we don't necessarily respect each other the way that we should. And then we get mad when other people disrespect us the exact same way that we disrespect each other. It's kind of hypocritical when you really think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Can I say this? What you said is correct about the culture. I don't like the way that over the last 2 decades the culture has went. I don't like it, and it's a lot of our fault, and it's a lot of outside influences that's involved in that also, that push the music.
Oh, absolutely.
And stuff like that. So yeah, but I will say this. I went yesterday to go see the movie Sinners. I advise people to go see that movie.
My mom was talking about that. I hadn't saw it yet, but I might need to go check it out.
It was so symbolic to our story. If you pay it, bro, I'm telling you, I was sitting in there tripping. I'm like, yo, they've been listening. You know why? That brother that produced that movie, he been listening to these YouTube streets and these spaces. He been listening, and he made that movie.
Now I got a question.
Go ahead.
I want to check the movie out. I want to check it out, but I got a question for you. And if you're interested, Friday I'm doing a panel. So if you're interested, man, I'd love to have you pull up, and be a part of that panel on Friday.
Sure.
But how do you get through to folks that you can't correct?
Why some of there's going to be a lot of us that's going to be left behind. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. There's some
but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know exactly.
You got a lot of folks, man, that they don't want to be corrected. They don't want to be told that, hey, the way that you're going about things, it's not a recipe for success. No different than when you have your children, and you can see the right, honestly, the path that you've taken. I don't know if you have kids or not, but you can see their friends and say, I don't know about that, man. It's not a good look. I don't like the direction. But ultimately, we all get a choice. Every day we make a move, we get a chance and a choice. How do you correct people that don't want to be corrected?
I'll say this, right? I grew up, my grandfather was a sharecropper. My father had 10 brothers and 4 sisters, right?
Wow, yeah.
Now, they grew up hard. And my father was very hard on me when I was young. And my mother used to get on him and say, you're being too hard on that boy. You're being too hard on him. And he told my mother, he said, look, let me tell you something. He said, I know my bloodline. You got to kill them Negroes to make them do right. He said, if you don't want me on this boy, when he go out here and do something and get in some trouble, don't come to me. I don't want to hear. I'm not going to get him out of jail. I'm not helping him with nothing. Don't come to me. He said, if that's what you want. And my mother, she went with that. I couldn't do no wrong for my mother. And then when she started seeing it, she knew he was right. I say that to answer your question. Some of us ain't gonna get it. We don't want to hear it. Just like now, I will say this. We're the reason why Kamala Harris lost that election. We are. I don't care what nobody say. because she lost all the swing states. And if you look to the swing states, the biggest districts and demographics were black. Those were black people. You go to Wisconsin, it was Milwaukee. You go to Pennsylvania, it was Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. That's where we are. And it was the grassroots that caused that election to sink for her. So a lot of our people are waking up. Now, some of them old civil rights, baby boomers, them niggas got to die off and go on to the great yonder because they in the way. And we gotta pick the ball back up for these millennials and these Gen Zs and these kids. We gotta pick the ball up. But them old folks gotta get out the way. They just gotta get out the way, and they don't want to hear nothing. They're putting the blinders on and over their ears and eyes. They don't want to hear nothing.
Oh yeah,
those the truth.
I've had some conversations with some older guys at the gym that I go to, man, and they don't want to hear nothing for a year. Last year, I got to a point where I just stopped talking to them about it because you could show them proof and they just like, oh no, I'm blue no matter who. I'm gonna do this until I die. Hey, so it's just unfortunate, man.
Wise, let me tell you something. I had family members after the election that cursed me out because I was gloating in the fact that the Democrats lost. I had family members actually cut me off and cursed me out and called me all kind of ignorant. I'm a house Negro and all this here, telling me that because I rejoiced in the fact that we didn't vote for that woman. So to your point, yeah, them people, you can't do nothing with them. Just leave them alone and let them go. But the people that want to do something and work, that's who we focus on. That's who I focus with.
I got you.
And you're doing a wonderful job. You're doing a wonderful job.
I appreciate that, man.
That's
I try to stay balanced because I understand the plight. You know what I'm saying? I do. But I also understand where I come from. And I also understand that, there's a lot of things that can be done on our side of things. You know what I'm saying? On our end. Now, can we, get rid of some of the systems? Possibly. But I also think that it takes a collective and it takes people being willing to come together. And a lot of our issue, and I know this to be true, my wife owns a company, and I know a few other, folks that own the company. You got to get better at supporting our own businesses and not looking for a handout or a hookup, being willing to pay full freight. You know what I'm saying? Of each other's businesses. I know you've seen it. People start a restaurant or something, and you looking for a hookup on the chicken plate. Like, nah, bro, you should be willing to pay full freight. You know what I'm saying? You should be willing to do that to support the business. So it's those types of things. It's that type of thinking that needs to be rewired. And like I said earlier, I'm not telling people to flip and become Republican. If anything, I would love to see more Black people become independent and look at each candidate individually. And based off of whatever their platforms are, make a decision accordingly off of that. Not just, they're Democrat, I'm going to support them no matter what. Or they're Republican, I'm going to support them no matter what. No, become an independent and start to really be a part of this political process and come be a part of it. Because the thing is that if you're not a part of it, you're still a part of the game. You're just a pawn that they're going to move out the way to get to the people that actually are part of it. I mean, you got to think about this. You can't be mad if a politician doesn't do anything if you didn't support said politician.
Right.
You ain't invested nothing in a campaign. You don't even half know what the heck is going on. You don't even know who the candidates are. I had a video come out earlier today. People in Maryland, they don't even know they're senators. So you can't be mad that, hey, he ain't doing anything for us. You don't even know who he is, which lets me know that you didn't even get out there and vote. You didn't even go look at the platform. Or you're upset that this dude flying down to El Salvador, and we got issues all throughout Baltimore City. We got issues all throughout this place. And you mad that he left the state, but you didn't even know who he was and didn't know what he was doing. So there's no allegiance. There's no allegiance there. They don't have to do anything for you because you're not there at those town halls. You're not investing in these campaigns, or you're not putting your money where your mouth is to put it behind someone that will go and be an advocate for you. That's the difference. When you look at, our community, we look and say somebody needs to do something, but somebody else got to do it. And you look at other communities, they say somebody got to do something, and we're going to put the money behind someone who we're going to force to do. Because you can't force somebody to do something if you ain't putting no dollars. And that's the difference between the other communities out there.
Yeah, what you're saying is true, and I'm in agreement with you to about 90%. here's the thing, right? It's a good thing you talked about business and doing for self, because I'm an advocate of that. However, you got cats, just like this guy Wallow the other day, the comments that he made about black businesses and stuff like that. Why do you feel that you should talk down at black people? And we don't have the worst businesses. First of all, we don't have the access to the capital like that to have great businesses out the gate. Most black businesses that start up from scratch, it was a struggle. I'm doing that now. So when you stand up in front of other black entrepreneurs and you tell them, yo, I don't give a F on who, because it's black business, you should. Because guess what? I don't like giving other ethnic groups my money. I'd rather do and spend my money with my folks.
I understand that.
So when
I think people took what he was saying out of context. I didn't necessarily care for the language, and I didn't care for his approach.
Right.
But I think what he was trying to say is that let's not let this being a black business be a crutch for you not providing a good service, quality customer service, you know what I'm saying, and a quality product. Let's not let that get in the way. Now, I'm one of those kind of people. I'm not even an advocate for saying that your business is black owned. Just let it be a business and go do your thing. Because the reality of it is this, Aaron, man, unfortunately, and I've experienced this myself, my wife has experienced it as well, you would be better off just saying this is my business. Especially even when dealing with, with some black folks, you would almost be better off just saying that this is a business, because a lot of times they won't actually support you if they know it's yours. Unfortunately, I'm just saying. Now, you don't see a lot of other people saying that this is a, Jewish-owned business or this is an Asian-owned business. They just say, hey, this is the business. We want to provide you a quality service or product or whatever it is, and this is it. And you either going to shop and do business with this or you not. So I'm one of those, I'm not an advocate of it. I've owned multiple businesses. I'm not going around saying, hey, this is black owned anything. This is just a business and I own it. I want to provide you the best service and or the best quality product. My business has been service businesses, and my wife is the same. And I told her, I was like, nah, don't do that. Because the thing is that you want to offer just a quality service and you don't want to ostracize others out there from wanting to do business with you. I mean, I think a lot of people think it's a flex to say like, hey, this is a black owned thing, instead of just saying, hey, I got a solid idea. I got a solid product. I got a solid service. This is how I can help you. I just want an opportunity to earn your business. So I understood where he was coming from. I didn't necessarily like his approach. I didn't care for his approach, but I understood where he was coming from.
Here's the problem with it, right? No, we shouldn't be boasting as black. We do that because we're not really, we don't come from generations of businesses. So we don't come, so when we got a business, yeah, I got a black business. We don't do that, but that's the mind. Now, what I will say is this: most black-owned businesses are boycotted because right here, you come right here in Brooklyn, New York City, where I'm at. You got Chinese and Arab and Indian people got businesses in the hood. They won't come spend no money with you. They'll let you come spend money with them, but they're not going to support your business. Jews the same way. And there's nothing wrong with that.
They go outside a little bit, but not a lot. But the thing is that I don't see anything wrong with it when there's more than enough money floating around. It ain't a money situation. You know what I'm saying? You just got to be willing to do it. The problem is, I to an extent, I understood where Wallow was coming. Again, I didn't like the approach, and I don't think it's a flex, because the reality of it is, Aaron, is that 90%, 95% of businesses are going to fail year one, and it doesn't matter who starts it. It don't matter the demographics. The focus really should be on not that this is black owned or white owned or whoever owned. Are you providing a quality service? Are you doing what you say you're going to do? Is your customer service on point and where it needs to be? Those types of things are important. And I think what he was trying to say is that all of the other stuff don't matter. What matters is the service or the product that you're providing is the best service or product that you could possibly provide. And that's extremely important. Extremely important in business, especially when businesses are failing, at a 90+% clip, regardless of who starts it.
Right. Well, see, now that's where you're right, but he's hypocritical in that point, and I'm gonna tell you why. He was very hypocritical with that. When that boy came home from prison after doing like 20 years, he came home from. He started selling T-shirts. The T-shirts was costing him $5. He was selling them for 20, right? And people, who was your customers? They weren't white, they weren't Chinese, they weren't Asian, they weren't Hispanics, they were black people that you were beating over the head for $15. So then in that case, you're a hypocrite. Don't do that. Now that you've made connections with the podcast, you've got these big deals with I think it's Barstool. They did a $3 million deal. Now then they turned around and did a $25 million deal, and you're able to get big names and stuff on your podcast. Now you the guy now. Now you talk down to your folks. Don't do that because now you're a hypocrite, and I don't like that.
I understand that. I understand where you're coming from with that. And I think that's what rubbed people the wrong way. If he was actually just telling, like really just giving people insight on, hey, this is how you go about doing business, I think it would have came across better. I think his heart was in the right place. I don't think his approach was I don't think his approach was proper.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that may be I think that's the biggest issue.
Right. But look here, brother, I don't want to hold you up, man, because we've been on here chopping it up for a minute.
Yeah, I know, for a minute.
I would love to kick it with you again. Just leave a link, let me know, and I'll be glad to join any conversation, bro.
Perfect. Well, what I'll do is, I don't know. I put my email address in the chat. But if you look in the description box, of this video, just scroll down just a little bit. My email address is in there. It's admin_wise@proton.me. Shoot me an email. That way I can kind of have you on the list because I try to do these panels at least once a week. And, I like to get good voices in, man. You know what I'm saying? To get up here and chop it up. We ain't always going to agree. Sometimes we're going to agree. We're going to agree to disagree. But I think civil discourse is important, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of problems that a lot of us are siloed in these echo chambers, man. And there needs to be some conversation. I think once people get an opportunity to have conversation, they'll realize that there's actually more in common than there isn't. And where there's some disagreements, we can chop it up and talk about it.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you pulling up, man. Thank you very much, man.
Sir.
Take care, man. That was awesome, man. Good conversation, man. Shout out to Marla with the $4.99 super chat. She says, great show, Wise. Glad more people are coming on the show. Outstanding, man. Outstanding. But I appreciate you guys pulling up, man. Appreciate you guys pulling up. Hey, civil discourse, in my opinion, is it's extremely important, man. I don't think we always have to agree. We can, at some point, agree to disagree. Sometimes, you can come to some form of, compromise on things. And sometimes you can come to, maybe you can change a person's mind. And a lot of times in the chat, it's hard to get your point across all the way in a couple characters. It's hard to do. And a lot of times it is better to have, some face-to-face dialogue, man. So shout out to that brother, man, for pulling up today. And shout out to you guys for supporting the channel and sticking with us. Definitely appreciate that, man. This was we definitely had some good callers today. Had some really good callers today. We are going to have a panel show on Friday. We probably will not do any call-ins on Friday because every time we do these panel shows and these things they get long. But I appreciate you guys, man. Shout out to the Blues, keeping things civil in the chat. ZFRK9, B, Brett Montgomery. Who else pulled up today? I think I seen T.A. Caskey. I think he might have pulled up today as well. Shout out to you guys. If there is anybody that would like to become a moderator, please let me know. Thank you, LJ Taylor. I thought it was a pretty good show as well. Thank you very much. But if there's anybody that would like to become a moderator, shoot me a message. Let me know, or let one of the Blues know. Okay, perfect. Yep. So my guy TA pulled up for a little bit. So shout out to him, and ZFRK9. Shout out to you as well, sister, for keeping things civil in the chat as always. I appreciate you guys, man. I really do. And I enjoy these kind of conversations. And that's why I like to open it up. I'm not somebody that's closed off, that's not, willing to have a conversation with folks. And I like to hear from you guys, man. You can do this. I do have my wife and I do have my dog. So I ain't going to say I get lonely. But it is pretty cool, when you're not just talking to yourself all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I enjoy doing the live streams and things of that nature because of the interaction of you guys, in the chat and things of that nature. But I definitely appreciate you guys, man. So, hey, we'll be back at this thing tomorrow. It's probably going to be a shorter show tomorrow. I'm not going to do a call-in show tomorrow. I got to go to the dentist. So we will have a show, but it just won't be as long as today. And it won't be a call-in. But I appreciate you guys as always, man. We'll be back at this thing tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time. Appreciate you guys. Keep God first. Stay prayed up. We'll catch up with you all next time. Y'all take care. Peace.
Vibes so raw, can't hide the truth. Words so sharp,